Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel outside the target demographic. Today we're going to be doing an oil change on my two-wheeled steed here. God, that's tomorrow. Guys, I swear to God, it's not mine. It came with the wife in the marriage. Today we are doing an oil change on my wife's Buddy pink scooter. Let's get started. Yes, this is not mine. If it were mine, there'd be a 0 at the end of that, as that's an 1100cc. And you know, it's pink. Yes, it came with a seat cover that is leopard print. And yes, I take this into town when I need to go get oil or something. And yes, I have my man car duly punched by everyone who sees it. But it also gives us 95 miles per gallon in fuel efficiency. It will do 2 up at 50 miles an hour. Ask me how I know. And it's a dependable little scoots. To keep it dependable, we're going to go ahead and do an oil change. So the things you'll need for the oil change are 10W40 motor oil, a funnel, the filter. Focus on the filter. Okay. A catch pan, cut open a 1-gallon milk jug if you need to. A couple odds and ends, I'm sure. Paper towels, I'm sure. A 17 and 22 millimeter socket. A torque wrench. And again, to reinforce to your YouTube viewership that this is not yours. So what we're going to do is, it comes with the center stand. We're going to put it up on the center stand. We're going to run it for about 5 minutes, let that oil get nice and hot, nice and loose, and then we're going to start draining it. So let's get her started. Listen to that sewing machine purr, and it has 7 horsepower, just like a sewing machine. So starts up, we're gonna let it run for a bit. Like I said, 5 minutes, set a timer if you want to, do some yard chores if you want to. All right, it's all nice and hot. On the left side here, right in the middle of the screen, you can put your 22 millimeter on the existing oil filter to free that off. On the right side of this guy, let's go over here, we have the 17, which is going to be right here. So we're first going to drain it. Then take off the filter, lube the O-ring, tighten up the drain valve here, add oil through the dipstick, clean it up as we're going, and that's about it. So let's go ahead and get it started. So it turns out, with the location of the drain port there, my oil pan doesn't quite fit. But as I said before, if you cut down the milk jug, that'll fit quite nice. It's only a 800 milliliter capacity, so it's not very much. That's going to be plenty. And it comes in almost a liter capacity. So it is labeled on the side here, 800 milliliters. So I know how much to use. If you don't have one of these graduated ones, grab yourself a water bottle. These are 500 milliliters, so 2 of these is 1 liter. This is gonna get you pretty close. If you fill it to here twice, that's gonna get you maybe 700 to 800 milliliters, and then you're topping up instead of risking the chance of overflow. Before we drain, put down some kind of a drop cloth cardboard box, pizza box, ideally if you have it, but we're gonna get that there. We're gonna unscrew this. The oil is there. Probably don't need to change it, but it's been sitting for long enough, we should. We're going to take this out. That's going to allow air to flow down and allow it to flow a little better without chugging and splashing everywhere. Clean around here while you're here. Try not to knock any debris in there. Get it all cleaned up. Now's the time, because even if it does fall in there, it's going to be coming out with the old oil. So we did that. Let's go ahead and pop the bolt free. So I popped it free, maybe a full rotation with the socket.
try and get you, there you go. Turns out this poorly placed muffler is crazy hot, so try not to touch that. You'll be the first one to know when you do. Gonna loosen that up a little bit. Honestly, letting it trickle out is going to be more controlled than just blowing your load. Giggity. But the squared shape of this is going to make it a little easier to have that be under there too. And I've popped it. Oh well. So we're going to let that drain. We do have a spring in a cup and a mesh basket here. Does not have any debris or shards of metal, which is ideal. It's really all you can ask for. We're going to clean that out and clean this up. The spring pushes the basket up. I imagine that's the return. Who knows? Because you'd want to catch it, right? So I would imagine the oil return would be going into this. One way or another, it cleans it out. So oil is quite dirty. It's worth the time swapping it out. We're going to let that drain a little bit longer. Super exciting times. All right, so while that was dripping, I cleaned it all up. There's really nothing in there. There's really nothing to report on the rag. As I've said before, if what you do ends with a dirty rag, you're not wasting your time. Cleaned out as best we could inside there as well. So it is good. Check the condition of your O-ring. If it's degrading or broken, go ahead and swap it out. This seems pliable, malleable, and still holding its shape. So I believe that's good. We're going to go ahead and try and thread this back up into the hole. I'm not going to do that with two hands, so you're going to have to trust me. Remember what I said about putting a drop cloth? Turns out liquid will flow along the surface wherever it wants to and drip wherever it wants to. So go ahead and get ahead of the curve there. I have it seated, well, lined up anyways. So I'm just going to finger tight it as best I can. It's going to be 13 foot-pounds of torque to put this baby back into this high-powered engine. So let me go ahead and do that. Back on the other side now. Again, we're going to go after that with this 22 millimeter. Going to need an extension. Didn't say that at the beginning, but we're going to line that up. Get it on there enough. But first, we have to move the milk jug, which is right in the way of the center stand. So you can either put it on the side stand, which I think is what we're going to do. Get the center stand out of the way. Let's give that a try. Yeah, no. So going with your side stand is going to angle the bike. Who'd have guessed? Because you're not center standing it now. And not only do you not have this piece of metal in the way, but now you have substantially less height. So it is better to leave the center stand there. You're going to make a mess. Put a drop cloth down. Again, we have that, which is relatively kind of maybe sort of over that. Do the best you can. Here we go. Oil filters out. As I unscrewed, I did so slowly. It allowed it to catch a little better without splashing, as I said. And then I just rocked it, pointing downwards a little bit, and it collected a little bit more. So we're going to go there. What we can do is, since this one's probably the original, I don't know if that's a date stamp. I don't really care. I feel like I can get a silver Sharpie and I can write the date and the mileage, maybe something like that. It was viewable from here. I do keep a log, but that'll be a quick, easy way to be able to keep track of that. So let me go get a silver Sharpie. That went about as well as I expected, but we have 923, 6562. Difficult to draw on two different surfaces, but that's what we got. And as always, I'm a function over fashion guy, and ain't no one going to be bending over this thing to look at it. So we do have a seal here, some kind of shrink wrapped situation. So what I'm going to do is open up the new oil. We're going to
oil this O-ring before we place it. That way we don't have dry rubber against dry metal. We're going to have a better connection there. So let's go and do that before screwing this back into place. Basically what I did is screwed the lid on, shook it, unscrewed the lid, and just that residual oil was enough to lube that O-ring. So that's now done. Typically I will fill my oil filters before I place them into onto the engine. Since this one's going to sit sideways, keeping the oil in isn't going to work so well. So we're not going to bother with that. Let's go ahead and tighten it back on, fill it from the top. So the old filter's here, the new filter's there. There isn't a torque gauge from what I can find, so we're just going to hand tighten that. By that I mean as strong as you could tighten it with your hand. With the socket, since it's so deep in there, you can't really get your hand on it. So tighten it snug, and then as soon as it stops turning, just give it like another 1/16 of a twist. Tighten it into place. The O-ring will compress and give you a hermetic and mechanical seal up against the engine here. So allow me to do that. With the oil plug and oil filter in place, we can go back to the other side. And we're going to be filling in here with almost a liter of oil. And that's going to be 10W40. I am going to determine, I'm a little bit above the 800. It looks like, you know, well, I guess we can see 150 milliliters over. So if we do the math ahead of time, I should be down to halfway in between 100 and 200 in order to meet the capacity, and we'll top off a little bit from there. It is easier to add more than to remove some, so let's go ahead and get started on that. So we're a little below the 200 milliliters remaining. Essentially what I did is I poured this horizontal, and you'll notice that the fluid can only pour to this point, right? So that's going to leave you about 1/5 of the capacity, which is what got me to the wrong side, about the 200 millimeter mark. So milliliter mark. So that's what we had. I'm going to wipe this up a little bit with a paper towel and use the dipstick to check it. You're going to want to check it on the center stand, which we are already on. So let's go ahead and confirm if we need to add some. Hopefully we don't need to remove some. So we're showing full on the stick. What we're going to do is we're going to wipe it dry to make sure that we have a positive instead of a negative positive. In that, this whole thing is going to be coated in oil, right? So on insertion, and I can see even up here, there's some oil. So I'm going to make sure that it is good to go. And we're going to make sure twice. One, I'm going to dry this stick and then put it back in and get a positive. And then second, we're going to run the engine for about 5 minutes, let it cool for about 5 minutes. That's going to allow the oil to go through the filter, move up into the engine, do what it needs to do. And we will reconfirm the level and add as needed. With our dry stick all the way in, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi. And if anything, we're reading high. I'm getting a ring about here versus reading on the stick. I'm not on the most level of ground. So with the stick as is, we're going to go ahead and run the engine for about 5 minutes and then recheck our level. So I just ran it for 5 minutes. You'll notice I also used some rubbing alcohol and wiped this down while I was waiting.
came out much cleaner, just the already used oily rags, and it helped break down some of the deposits and all. A little bit cleaner down there, less likely to rust and corrode and all. So let's go ahead and check our oil once more. I don't know, we were reading a little high. I don't know if the oil filter had filled yet or not. Not sure of the order the pump sends the oil in. So we now have a dry stick with a hair on it. Don't want to do that. Let's do just a dry stick. Better. So it's not really focusing. You can kind of tell against the paper towel there. Up to here, this last notch rib, the oil is holding on. You can see a little bit of a dry spot there. So we're looking good. The nice thing about these scooters is while there is storage under the seat, so much so that you can fit a gallon of milk or a full face helmet, there's also storage up front here. And I went ahead and put the oil there. It'll be a reminder to check it and ease of access to refill it. So that's what we have on the oil change. I am starting to do the maintenance on this as we just pulled it out of storage again, kind of like the Steed here. So I got a notebook. You get 3 of them for $1.25 at Dollar Tree. Love me some Dollar Tree. Nice small little 3x5 notebooks. I'll be logging today's date and the mileage, the oil type, the 10W40. Kind of weird. The only reason we had 10W40 in the garage is the wife had gotten a quart of 10W40 for this purpose. So I feel like that's not a common oil, or at least the asterisks of not common in what I use and what's in my driveway. So it's a bit of an oddball. And then the 800 milliliter is also milliliter. I'm used to the empirical, I guess. So I will be logging both of those in my notebook, and that will make it easier for the next time. It's not, oh, it's time for an oil change. It's time for an oil change of this weight and this capacity. And that'll help you be a little bit more diligent on doing those more routinely and getting the right stuff before you get halfway through the project and realize you forgot something or got the wrong item. So that's what we have for today. As always, this is outside the target demographic. Any questions, comments, concerns you have, go ahead and leave them in the comments section below. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.